Yes, our focus today is on issues of women and child rights, and one of the issues, the debates in fact that has been raging on is with regards to surrogacy. Now, Supreme Court has sought the centre's response in a plea challenging the exclusion of unmarried women in a provision of Surrogacy Regulation Act. The provision excludes unmarried women from its definition of quote-unquote intending woman, which means that unmarried single women cannot avail the option of surrogacy in India. The term includes Indian women who are widows and divorcees between the age of 35 to 45. They are eligible, and if they intend to avail the option of surrogacy, they can. But single unmarried women, even in that age group, even those who are incapable of conceiving naturally, cannot opt for surrogacy. So let's put out the criteria for surrogacy in India. There it is. For intending couples who suffer from infertility, it has to be altruistic. It cannot be for commercial purposes, which means there cannot be any exchange of money. There cannot be any monetary transaction for that service, whoever is the surrogate who gives that service or rents a womb, so to speak. Not for producing children for sale or prostitution, allows only infertile couples and intending women. Now, the definition of intending women, like I said, has been also spelled out. A woman should have a certificate of eligibility. Now, that is where the problems have started, because there are a lot of single women, unmarried women who want to avail this opportunity. In fact, one such petitioner is with us. I don't know if she's already joined us on the phone line. Okay, she's joined with us on the phone line. Ma'am, good evening. We won't disclose your identity, respect your privacy entirely. But tell us, what is your argument? And there would be many like you who would want to avail the option of surrogacy. Why do you feel it's unfair? Why have you appealed against this provision in the surrogacy law?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on board. I think it's important, not only from my perspective, but for communities such as LGBTQ, etc., right, that are really out there and, who genuinely want to have children for the love of a child and, just not to exploit another intending woman who's willing to be a surrogate, or just not to, derive other benefits such as, use the child for prostitution, etc., which are very skewed notions, right? Honestly, we don't understand why such restrictions have been put in, but very simply, we should have the choice outside of marriage, independent of marriage, irrespective of marriage. Why is singlehood, whether for a man, whether for a woman, being used against them to exclude them and to make a different community or a category altogether? I mean, it is absurd.
Really appreciate your joining us here, making your point extremely clear and extremely understandable, I must say. Why make this exclusion? That is the question that petitioner is asking. Thanks very much for joining us. Well, the Supreme Court bench of Justices Ajay Rastogi and Bela Trivedi issued a notice in response to this plea from the lady who you just heard. She has challenged the criteria for surrogacy in India. She has argued in her plea that puts restraints on unmarried and single women to access the benefits of surrogacy. As she says, it is violative of Article 14 of the Constitution, the right to equality. In fact, joining me on the program is also the advocate of the petitioner, Mayank Pandey. Mayank Pandey, good evening. Thanks for joining us here on the program. I would also be eventually going across to Geeta Luthra and Shamina Shafiq. But first, Mayank Pandey, to you. I want to ask you that what are the arguments made in court in this regard, if you could apprise our viewers of your point of view in this case.
Hi, thank you for having me. So primarily the writ petition has been filed under Article 32 of the Constitution of India, claiming infringement of fundamental right, primarily on the ground that the petitioner has been categorized as an unmarried woman. This as a category has been carved out, which cannot avail the benefit of surrogacy under the Surrogacy Regulation Act. As you had rightly put in, the prohibition is because through the definition of intending woman, which only says a widow or a divorcee between the age of 35 and 45 will be eligible to commission a surrogacy under the Act. Now, apart from the fact that we claim this to be an arbitrary and irrational classification, which does not have any nexus with the object which the Act seeks to achieve, which, as you rightly said, is including rent a womb or basically to curb commercial surrogacy. And one other thing peculiar which we want to raise in the writ petition is the status of the women who were in the middle of the procedure. So the Act, we are saying, does not contemplate their fate, as in who were in the middle of the procedure and who had already undergone the pain or the suffering or the process of the medical procedure, and where do they stand? And apart from that, apart from that, the other thing is we also say this will be in violation of a certain international convention. For example, CEDAW, which is Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which also the country through Article 51 and all stand to be bound by. So these are the few grounds on which we have challenged this particular provision, which prohibits unmarried women from availing the parenthood through surrogacy.
Okay, that's interesting. Do stay on with us, Mr. Pandey. Let me welcome Geeta Luthra, Senior Advocate, and Shamina Shafiq, ex-member of the National Commission for Women, joining us also on the program. Geeta Luthra, like you just heard, the advocate for the petitioner making his arguments, but I just want you to help us understand this, that beyond the obvious logic, why is it that law prohibits single women, unmarried women? What is, is there something that we are missing here, which if you would like to point out?
I don't think we are missing anything here. I think it is really actually a very old patriarchal attitude, and somehow we have incorporated it in our mindset. Ultimately, the same reason that you were not allowing single parents to adopt, you were not allowing unmarried women to adopt. It's the same mindset. And you can't be having that mindset in today's day when you are saying whether what be your marital status is wholly immaterial. So all that you need to see is the person a fit parent? And that all those parameters which are looked at, they cannot look at the issue whether this is a single woman or a married woman who for convenience will get married and then go through a nullity or an annulment. What sense and what logic can it make? So I don't think they can pass this test on any parameter, but on the fact that we want to be over conservative and hark back to that aspect where unmarried women were being denied rights.
Yes,
single people were being denied rights.
Yes, because there would be one side of the argument that would say this is to protect single women. And the first reaction I got, Shamina Shafiq, when I put this question out to some of my colleagues and friends, is that this is infantilizing adult unmarried women. Don't have sex, don't get pregnant without marriage, no kids without marriage, no right to surrogacy either. It's a total control of her sexual and reproductive choices, isn't it? Beyond this exclusionary approach, is there anything that you see in this?
No, I can't see anything beyond this, frankly speaking, because as the other speakers said, it's actually the age-old mindset, which is very regressive, which doesn't approve of a woman being independent financially or, for that matter, emotionally, or having a family of her own without getting into the institution of marriage. Come on, we are living in the age of 2023. And are we trying to say that a woman who is unmarried is unfit to have a family? I mean, that is something which is purely the mindset of the advocates who say that an unmarried woman is unfit to, or for that matter, like the petitioner herself said, LGBTQ community, or for that matter, anyone else. I mean, and also I fail to understand the age limit that has been put there for the widow or the divorcee women between 35 to 45. This is also very debatable, because I mean, are you trying to fix up an age for a woman to decide for herself whether she should go for a family or not? So these are all very patriarchal mindsets, which unfortunately run through not only men but also women who are in power position, wherein they are in decision making positions. And unfortunately this happens because there is no dialogue with the stakeholders when you are actually sitting down and drawing your parallels, when you think about an act or you talk about a law. And obviously in India especially, I mean, there is some kind of theory which tries to complicate everything. Why can't you simplify things for people? Why do you have to have loopholes wherein, I mean, the women, or for that matter anyone, is forced to go the other way around and hold the ear and do something which she actually wants to do?
It seems like, you know, to my mind, as if the state has complete control only of this category of women, single, unmarried. If you haven't been with a man in marriage at least once, you don't have the legitimate rights to become a parent.
No.
Unlike your married or your widowed or divorced friends. Why is the single unmarried such a category, a discriminated category?
But when you're talking about surrogacy, then this is the category. Otherwise, if you look at other laws, if you look at other practices, if you look at other rules and regulations that are drawn out, I mean, even married women are into that ambit. So it is referring to surrogacy here, yes. But otherwise, to control a woman's body, to control a woman's reproductive cycle, to control her decision-making power, I mean, this is unfortunately the mindset of generally the lawmakers.
It's stripping her of autonomy, of agency, of choice. But Geeta Luthra, my larger concern here is that now the top court has asked the centre to respond on this. But the centre has been extremely, whether you call it cautious or going slow on these matters, whether it's marital rape, whether it's legalizing gay marriage. What hope do we have? It will be any different for surrogacy for single women?
See, I don't think we should be very concerned with what the centre would say. Just look at the history. So you had Puthuswamy, which was a 9-judge bench decision, which spoke of bodily autonomy and the right to your intimate person as being something integral to every man or woman. So come from Puthuswamy, got decriminalization of 377. You are moving on to same-sex marriages. So the effect of Puthuswamy and what the judges echoed in Puthuswamy and in Joseph's Shine and in the judgments where 377 got decriminalized. These are the precursors to the law as this would be, including the right with regard to abortion. Okay. So a woman has bodily autonomy on her person for her procreation, for her reproductive rights. And I think, of course, the court has to seek the centre's response. But I don't think that it stops the court from saying Article 14, which is right to equality, Article 19, which is all your fundamental rights, and Article 21, which is your right to life, in which you would include the right to procreate, the right of reproductive rights. All these rights would not march on, as you have seen, maybe in many Western countries. You see that in the US, you see it in Canada, you see it in Colombia. There are many countries where single parents can be surrogates. But, same way as at one time you were saying single parents can't adopt. So this whole issue comes from a slightly parochial, a slightly conservative, I don't want to use stronger language, mindset. And that mindset will give way. And I think it's already given way if we interpret the Supreme Court judgments even till now, there is no other aspect or no other conclusion but that single women cannot be singled out.
Yes, absolutely.
So you are going to, according to me, the law will be interpreted in a different manner, in a more expansive manner, in a wholesome manner, with the fundamental rights which have been echoed by the Supreme Court already in place.
Mayank Pandey, are you hopeful, after hearing, the two experts here on the program, the fact that you have invoked Article 14, if I understood Geeta Luthra correctly, that itself is something that the court is likely to take cognizance of as one of the fundamental rights guaranteed under Constitution?
Exactly. In fact, just to add on what Ms. Luthra said rightly, Supreme Court has been at the forefront that way, has been being the forebearer of the fundamental rights of the citizen. In fact, has clarified in a couple of judgments, and one of them, a recent one, that the marital status cannot be a ground on the basis of which a woman or a person can be discriminated or classified from one person to the other. In fact, Supreme Court has recently held that the reproductive autonomy is actually a part, it's a dignity and is enshrined in Article 21 of the Constitution of India, which is a fundamental right again. So which gives us the hope that reproductive autonomy, which means it's the choice of the woman to adopt the course of action to embrace the parenthood to the will she wants. And also the fact that the mere marital status cannot be the basis for discriminating one woman or one man also from the other. So that's the Supreme Court that way has clarified and has actually given the hope, and the law that way has actually come a lot far, as Ms. Luthra said, from K.S. Puttaswamy to the recent one in 2022.
Right, there are a lot of celebrities in this country. We're running the pictures, of course, of, who've become happy families today, thanks to the surrogacy law. But single, unmarried women cannot be deprived of this, especially if they are not capable of natural births for medical reasons. They cannot simply be excluded from this provision. We would like to continue this conversation even as more, I'm hoping more developments will come in on this. Thanks very much, Mayank Pandey, Geeta Luthra and Shamina Shafiq for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Let's take a short